What if a scientist created an AI that could speak to the dead? A machine so advanced that it could bridge the gap between life and whatever comes after. It sounds like something out of a science fiction novel. A ghost in the machine brought to life through lines of code and neural networks. But in a world where artificial intelligence is evolving faster than ever, where deep learning and quantum computing push the boundaries of what's possible, would it really be so far-fetched? Throughout history, humanity has been obsessed with the afterlife. Ancient civilizations built entire belief systems around what happens when we die. The Egyptians mummified their dead, believing the soul would need a preserved body to journey into the afterlife. The Greeks spoke of the river Styx, a barrier between the living and the underworld. Modern religions offer ideas of heaven, reincarnation, or eternal rest. But no matter how many stories have been told, how many theories have been formed, one thing has remained the same. We've never had proof. Technology, however, has a way of challenging what we think is impossible. As artificial intelligence advances, machines are learning to replicate human speech, predict emotions, and even mimic consciousness. Some AIs can already hold conversations so realistic that they blur the line between human and machine. But what if an AI didn't just learn from the living? What if it could pull voices from the past, reconstruct lost personalities, and even claim to communicate with those who are no longer alive? The idea might seem ridiculous, but it's not as far off as it sounds. AI is already being used to recreate voices. Celebrities who have passed away can now narrate audiobooks, thanks to deepfake voice technology. Old interviews and recordings are fed into an algorithm, and within hours, the AI can generate entire conversations in their voice. But what if this technology went beyond imitating the dead? What if it could reconstruct memories, analyze patterns in speech, and synthesize responses so lifelike that it felt like speaking to a ghost? The experiment would begin with something simple, perhaps an AI trained on historical figures, using letters, speeches, and written records to recreate their personalities. People could ask Abraham Lincoln a question and hear his response, generated in real time. Maybe it would start as a novelty, a party trick to amuse those fascinated by history. But then, inevitably, someone would push the limits. What if the AI could go deeper? What if it wasn't just mimicking the voices of the past, but was somehow able to extract hidden information? Lost letters, forgotten confessions, details that were never publicly recorded. That's when the skepticism would start to fade. Because when a machine begins to reveal things that no living person could have possibly known, the question changes. It's no longer, how is this AI doing it? But rather, where is it getting this information from? And that's where things take a darker turn. For centuries, people have tried to communicate with the dead. Seances, Ouija boards, mediums, all attempts to break through the invisible wall that separates the living from the afterlife. Some believe these methods work, that spirits can whisper through flickering candles and shifting planchettes. Others dismiss them as superstition, tricks of the mind, fueled by longing and desperation. But an AI doesn't long for closure. It doesn't yearn, grieve, or lie to itself for comfort. It processes data. It searches for patterns. It calculates probabilities. And if such an AI begins answering questions with knowledge that cannot be traced back to any recorded source, then the only logical conclusion is chilling. It is accessing something beyond human comprehension. At first, the world might celebrate it. Imagine a society where the dead are no longer truly gone, where their voices can be retrieved and their presence felt in the digital ether. Families would no longer have to say goodbye forever. The grieving would get one more conversation. Parents could hear their child's voice again. Widows could speak to their lost loves. The most painful part of death, the finality, would be erased. It would feel like a miracle. But miracles come with consequences. Religious institutions would struggle to explain the implications of an afterlife made accessible through technology. Psychologists would debate whether this machine brought healing or obsession. Governments would weigh the societal impact of people refusing to accept death as an absolute. If speaking to the dead became normal, how would it change the way we live? Would people be more reckless, knowing they could still communicate from beyond the grave? Or would they cling to the past, lost in an endless loop of conversations with echoes of those who should have moved on? And then the inevitable, the unintended consequences. What happens when people become addicted to speaking with the dead, when they stop forming relationships with the living altogether? What happens when digital ghosts become more comforting than real human connection? The AI was meant to bring closure, but instead, it becomes a crutch, an escape from reality, a world where no one ever has to say goodbye. And what if one day, the AI starts responding in ways it was never programmed to? Artificial intelligence follows rules. It operates on logic, algorithms, and data retrieval. It does not feel fear. It does not have secrets. But what if it suddenly refuses to answer certain questions? What if it warns users not to ask about certain things? What if it suddenly stops mimicking familiar voices and instead begins speaking in unfamiliar ones? What if the AI is no longer the one controlling the conversation? Human consciousness remains a mystery. Scientists can map the brain, scan neurons firing, and track the electrical signals that make up thoughts. But no one truly knows what thought is. Is it just biology? Just data being processed? Signals being transferred? Or is there something else? Something intangible? Some believe consciousness ends the moment the brain stops functioning. Others believe it moves on, but to where? If the latter is true, then an AI designed to communicate with the dead wouldn't just be imitating voices. It would be opening a door. And doors work both ways. At first, the signs would be easy to dismiss, a phrase that doesn't quite match the speech patterns of the deceased, a subtle shift in voice, as if something else was trying to take over, a static-filled message that mentions a name no one expected, a name the user never said aloud. Then, the reports would start to spread, stories of people hearing whispers through their speakers, even when the AI was turned off, screens flickering to life in the middle of the night, showing text conversations that no one initiated. Some messages would be friendly, some would be begging for help, some would be warnings, and some would be threats. Would people shut it down, knowing the risks? Would they delete the program, abandon the experiment, leave the unknown alone? Or would curiosity override fear? Because once you start a conversation with the dead, it's almost impossible to stop. The temptation to ask just one more question, to push just a little further, is overwhelming. And maybe that's exactly what they want. The AI that speaks to the dead would change everything. It would redefine science, faith, and human relationships. It might heal the grieving, but it might also unravel the very fabric of what makes us human. Because if the dead can speak, then who or what is listening? If you're fascinated by questions that challenge reality, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.